you are logical. The space in there, the suspense. You don't know if he's going to say that you're logical. And if he doesn't say you're logical, you're done.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another installment of Jammore Interviews. I'm your host, Josh, aka Jammore, and today I'm joined by the amazing, the legendary David Sobolov, who has voiced characters such as Dr. Fate, Lobo, Gorilla Grodd, and so many other amazing characters. Can I hear a rounding round of applause for David Sobolov?
Hi.
So can you? Is my head cut off there? How's that?
Yeah, it's cut off. Yeah, it's cut off.
How's
a
that?
little bit.
Is that better?
Yeah, I can see. Move
I'm
it
cut
down
off
just
by
a
the
little
chat.
bit.
You'll just get my eyes.
There we go. All right, now before I get into it, I would just like to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for coming on here today.
You're welcome.
It means, my pleasure. Means so much to me that you joined me today. I hope you have a great time here, and let's just get started.
Well, there's nothing better than talking to a real fan. You know, there's just I don't have a job if you guys don't like what I do. So I'm thrilled to talk to you guys.
Awesome. So while I was looking into stuff to ask you about, I found out some cool facts about yourself, that you have a hobby of antique product packaging. I got that correct?
I do.
So how did that start?
Ever since I was a little boy, my mom was a swing singer in the 1940s. So like that mic there, that 1940s NBC mic, things like that. I just love stuff from back in the day, from like 1880s to like 1960 or so. That's the kind of stuff I collect. I'll just grab for whatever I can grab right here and show you. So this is one little thing. This is from the 40s. The old Eveready battery.
Nice.
It seems like junk. Other people's junk is my treasure. This is a 1930s Eveready battery. Why it still exists, I have no idea. And I got all sorts of stuff like that. It's just fun for me. Products that still exist today, but old versions of them.
Oh, yeah. I love looking at stuff like that in history books or in museums. That stuff is just so cool to me, too. I mean, I don't collect it, but I just love the look of it, you know? Like that microphone behind you, it looks so cool to me.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled to have that. Well, this microphone, I used to sing into in the 1980s in voice lessons, and it was sent to me. You know, my old teacher passed, and they sent this to me, and then I got this NBC part of it here in LA a couple of years ago. I've been looking for that my whole life. Very hard to find that kind of stuff.
Wow. Another thing I found out about you is that when you were younger, you played French horn. What did you
I did.
What made you gravitate towards French horn than any other instrument?
Well, I was playing trumpet, and I wanted to do something different, something that not a lot of people were doing, and that's why I picked it.
I played trumpet too. When you said trumpet, I was like, yes, another. Oh, yes. I played the trumpet back in middle school with me and my friends.
Okay, where's the camera here? There we go. I didn't know where the camera was. Now I can look right at you. Now I can look right at you.
There you go. But no, I used to play in middle school with my friends, and we just had like a big old group, and we just play, and it was so much fun. I miss those days. But I'm middle school. But my first question to you would be is, what is a childhood memory that you would say defines you as a person?
Wow, defines me. That's a big question. I wish I'd thought about that in advance here. Let me think. Well, I'll tell you a very personal story. It's something that hasn't been publicized that much. When I was 14 years old, I came within about 30 seconds of drowning. I was in a lake, and I couldn't get back to shore. And they found me. They were grabbing me. It was like, it really was very religious, because it was just like, no one believes me if I tell them that just as I was going down. This was a party that we were having on shore with the marching band that I was in. The tuba player grabbed me. They were already looking for me. The tuba player grabbed me just as I was going down. And that really helps you appreciate your life. I didn't think about it at the time, but it could have all been over right then. You know, just in life, I think if you have opportunities, grab them, and don't take for granted anything, because you just don't know what's going to happen to you.
Absolutely. That's so crazy that you talked about drowning, because I remember my little brother, we used to live at this apartment complex, and it was like a swimming thing, and he like flipped upside down, and you could see I was freaking out. His legs were like kicking, and I had to get him, and I turned it out. Oh my goodness. That's just
Wow,
such a scary...
You saved him. You saved him?
Yeah. Yes.
Good for you.
Yes. It was, oh my goodness. I don't like thinking about it. It's so scary to me, because, you know, water has always been... Yeah,
it's another thing too that kind of relates to the career. Like, anybody can be a hero.
Right.
It's not just superheroes. Everybody's doing something heroic every day in their lives, especially like that. But obviously now first responders are amazing. The people in the hospitals are amazing. You saved your brother. People do heroic things, and it's great when they're recognized.
Are you living the life you imagined as a kid, or did that change as you got older?
I think your dreams change, your goals change. I felt like I achieved the dreams that I thought of as a kid. And now you're always finding new goals and new dreams. You can't just sort of say, well, that's it. Okay, what's now? Like, for instance, right now, I created an animated series that I'm starting to put together to try to sell. It's called a pitch deck. And I've never done that before. It's fun to do new things even at my age.
That's so cool. I can't wait to learn more. Wow. Is this like your first time talking about it? Like, what's it about?
Oh, I've talked about it. I can't really get into it because I want to be able to sell it. But yeah, it's super fun. I don't know, a lot of fun. There's a lot of my friends in the industry help me out with it. It should be super fun.
I'm really excited to learn more about that. Now, a cool thing that I found is you worked out with, trained with acting legend Sanford Meisner. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, Meisner. You did your homework.
I always make sure to, because one thing about me is that whenever I have a guest, I want to make it a unique experience or something new that you haven't been through before. Because literally, if you look at my YouTube search bar, it's just literally interviews of you. Like, there's 10 different interviews, and I just watch them. There's one interview I watched once every 2 hours to just fully grasp all the knowledge from it to make.
Which one was that? Which one did you like?
It was the it was the Cam. It was Camden Cam. He was a Transformer podcaster. I don't know if you remember. It was the Omega podcast, the Transformers Omega podcast.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance, I would say look up the Rob Paulson show that I did with him. His podcast. He really interviewed me well. It's very personal.
Rob Paulson is the man. I would love to speak to him one day. But how did you come to train with Sanford?
Well, I interviewed for the school, and I was living in Vancouver, Canada, and I went and I interviewed, and they accepted me. And it was probably a simpler process back then. You just had to go and talk to them. There was no audition. They just wanted to see, what your background was. They didn't try to assess where you were because they wanted to train you. It was like training it's very different today, There's not a lot of people that go to those schools anymore. Sure, there's still people going to them, but they cost a fortune now. Mostly it's private training or just on-the-job experience. It's really, really valuable to have that training, but it's just not available that much anymore. It was inexpensive then, too.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Relatively.
Yeah. How would you say that helped sharpen your acting skills and even your voice acting skills?
I would have no career without Sanford Meisner. Without those classes, I would have nothing. Because it formed the basis for how I approach a character. And you learn after a while in voice acting, you don't do voices, you play characters. That's way more interesting to listen to. And they taught me how to do that. I wouldn't have known otherwise, wouldn't have had a clue.
Wow. I know he passed away in the 90s. How did you handle that when you heard that?
Well, funny that you asked that because somebody kind of set me up. I was doing an interview on camera. I hadn't heard about it, and he sprung it on me in the middle of the interview.
What? Oh my
So,
goodness.
and this is somebody that meant a lot to me, so, I had to make him stop. I was feeling very emotional. And I think he just did that so he could get it on camera. Or maybe he was just lucky, I don't know.
Jeez. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I don't know. That seems kind of fishy, if I may ask.
Yeah, it's people do what they have to do. It's okay.
Yeah. I know you started out in theater and did your acting that way. So how did you get introduced to the world of voice acting?
I was doing a play, and somebody heard the voice, and there was an agent. She said, "Come do villains." And I started working in Vancouver and picked it up pretty quickly. And it just seemed to be something that was a good fit.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that was a cool thing. While I was looking through your voice roles that you've done, it's mainly villains. There's a lot of villain roles like Shockwave and Blitzwing and Lobo and characters like that. So that's really cool.
And while I talk about that, it's not about doing voices. Your voice types you a little bit. So the deep gravelly thing, people think of that as a villain usually, or a badass kind of like the show I did Kaijudo that almost no one saw that I loved. He wasn't really a villain. He was just big and brash, and You know, sort of like the scary monster with a heart of gold.
Speaking of Kaijudo, oh my goodness, I remember because it was on Hub, and that was the same place that Transformers Prime was on, which you would later come
Yeah,
on to. And I remember seeing some of it. I don't remember it too well, but I do remember the creature you played. So yeah.
the Tetsuri and the Unchained, he was called.
Yes. Oh my goodness, it sucks that sometimes shows don't get the love that they deserve. So
I think it was on the Hub, a place that not too many people had that. It was really not easy. It was only available in like a third of the country, I think. So that didn't help.
I remember the only reason I watched Hub was because of the reruns of like Transformers G1 and G.I. Joe and
Hmm.
Transformers Prime. That's what I eventually came to. What was your first major role, and what did you gain from it?
My first role, my major role, was a show called Vortec that no one remembers. It was on Fox for like 5 minutes. We had 13 episodes, and well, what I gained from it. The director was Sue Blue, real legendary director. She directed me in Beast Wars later on, and just getting the consistency of playing that character week after week, making sure it was the same character, sort of a skill set that you learn on the job. You have to make sure that whenever you have a demo, you got to make sure that whatever you have on there is something that you can reproduce. And when you audition too, you're not only showing them what you can do creatively, but you're also showing them what you can do technically. So you have to make sure when you do that audition that you can reproduce that 40, 50, 60 times. And it sounds exactly the same. Luckily, I was able to do it. It's a skill that if you don't have it, it's very hard to do a series.
I can't remember who I was talking to. They were like, sometimes voice actors will put their all in an audition, and when it comes game time, they can't do it the same way that they did it on the audition tape, and that's something that they have to learn to do. And sometimes it's very difficult for newer voice actors to get adjusted to doing that. So
I have
yeah.
very rarely seen that. I've only seen that on the job once. And it was a horrific experience for the guy. I felt for him horribly. He couldn't get what he did in the audition. He couldn't reproduce it. And this was a huge show on a huge network, and it was a pretty bad day for him. I wish I'd been right next to him. I was across the way from him, and I was across the other side of the room. If I had been right next to him, I would have tried to whisper a couple things in his ear, but because I could hear what he was missing. There was like this one little emotional thing that he was forgetting to do that would have locked in the character totally. You know, we're also a very tight-knit group in our community. It's not a kind of community where we're trying to hurt each other. It's very supportive, and anybody that could have helped him would have helped him.
That's
Nobody's
what I love about the voice.
Very few people are looking to cut anybody down in voice acting.
That's what I love about the voice acting community from voice actors I've talked to. They always talk about how the voice acting community is extremely different in terms of like support than any other entertainment like group or circle. They're like, it's very supportive, it's very camaraderie. There's a lot of tight you form like families and relationships out of this. There's not a lot of egos. I remember I was watching Steve Blum talk about it, and he was like, you won't find a lot of egos in the voice acting community because you won't really make it far here.
He comes up a lot. He comes up in almost every interview I ever give. He's the nicest guy on the face of the planet. He is amazing and so talented, but also he finds time to be kind, you know, to be a real person. You know, he I suppose at a certain point in your career, it wouldn't even matter what your personality was like. You'd still be accepted. But I think a lot of what drives a lot of us forward is just that we stay genuine. And it definitely reflects in the characters too, I think.
Absolutely. To go back to Susan Blue, she also directed you in Beast Wars. And I just want to talk about Transformers. And you've been a major part of Transformers, whether you realize it or not. You've been in so much stuff. You've been in the Transformers, the movie video game is Brawl, which I played that game so much. Funny story, I had the game for PlayStation 2, and I played the game so much that the disc was starting to break. Like there were like dirt marks and stuff forming around it. So when I tried to play it, the PlayStation 2 wouldn't recognize it, so I had to buy it for every system in my house to get. I got it for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. And I love that game to this day. And I will fight anyone who says that game is trash, because it's not. But you've been Depth Charger, you've been Shockwave, you've been Blitzwing. Did you ever imagine when you first started out as Depth Charge in Beast Wars that you would be such a major part of this franchise?
No idea at all. It just sort of came up every few years. All of a sudden, I was in Transformers. I thought Transformers Prime. I thought, well, 2 in 1 lifetime. Well, that's going to be it. And then Blitzwing came up. I just couldn't even believe that I got 3 major Transformers roles, in one career. Most people get 1 if they're lucky. So I was very fortunate to get that.
I'm glad that you've been around, because to talk about one of my favorite characters, Shockwave and Transformers Prime, you knocked that out of the park. You're definitely, in terms of Shockwave voice actors, because there's been so many, you're really up there, because you bring just this cold calculatedness to this character that I don't think a lot of people, in my personal opinion, I know there's so many opinions out there, everyone has an opinion, but you just bring something to this character that I love. And to also mention that it's my favorite design. I just love the way he looks and what he transforms into.
He was great. The key to that character, you don't try to be evil. You just realize that he has a goal. It might be behind you. If the goal is behind you, he will kill you. He doesn't have an opinion about killing you. He'll just kill you. So you play it sort of like bereft of emotion. There's no emotion. If I played it with emotion, it wouldn't be good. You play it, except when Starscream was around, he kind of stepped on the last nerve of Shockwave. So Starscream and him, they always clashed. But other than that, there was no emotion.
I remember watching one clip where, I don't know if you remember recording this, but there's a Shockwave and Starscream. Starscream was like, Megatron, Shockwave's about to kill me. And he was like, oh, I'm thinking. And then Shockwave like grabs Starscream's head and is about to like put it on his eyes through like a sharp blade. And then Starscream was like, said something, I can't remember exactly, but Shockwave was like, oh, that's logical. And then he like pulled back and stopped. And I just, stuff like that is just so cool to me when you're voicing a character like that. Love Shockwave.
That's one of my favorite scenes of the whole series. That and the very first appearance that he has. I'm not into torturing people in real life, but as a character, the torture of those characters in that first episode was really unusually psychologically interesting. But they never really went back there again. But the scene that I had with Steve, when he was threatening him, when he finally had enough, that was a great scene. It was because of the other actors in the room. The 3 of us together, just a great ensemble.
I love ensemble recordings. I've never been in. I don't know what I'm saying, but I just love hearing when voice actors are all in a big room, because that's what I always imagine is all of the voice actors in a big room. There's a director there telling you what to do, giving y'all orders. But what some voice actors tell me is that that's not true in some cases. Some cases it's you alone, singled off, not with a lot of voice actors. It's just you and the director. So I guess that's one thing I've been corrected on through doing this.
Almost all video games are that way. And a lot of Disney shows are that way. Justice League, the newer Justice League stuff that I've done has been in an ensemble, which has been great. Sometimes the cast, especially with the DC stuff, are so large that they just can't record everybody all together. And it's a subject, especially if there's celebrities and they're subject to availability. But I prefer it. It's way better when you can work off of each other.
Right.
And more fun, too. It's COVID now, so we can't do that right now. You have to do it on Zoom. So most of the stuff is by ourselves. But we look forward to the day when we can get together again. Hopefully another 6 months. We'll see.
Please. God, I can't believe we've been in this pandemic since March of last year. Like, we're so close to coming on, like, the anniversary of us being in this mess. So, goodness. How have you adjusted to all of this, like home studio and Zoom and stuff like that?
Well, I had to make a major investment to make sure that they will not hire you if your home studio doesn't sound like you're at Warner Brothers. Some people get sent kits. I had one gig where early on when I didn't have the equipment, they sent me the microphone. They sent me a very expensive microphone. Now I upgraded everything. So for the most part, they're pretty happy just going for my home booth. You also have to be very fortunate with your acoustics. Sometimes you can't even build that, unless you spend a ton of money. If you have a space that has noise, if there's a pipe that's in the wall that's making a noise all the time, it doesn't matter how good your mic is, you got nothing. I was very fortunate, just the acoustics of I have a closet booth. I just took everything out of the closet, made it into a booth, and it's worked out great.
Do you think there'll be any long-lasting things that have happened during COVID that'll like carry on after this is finished?
I think they realize that they can do more at home than they realized. But as I've produced my own pilot, I realized that when people record at home, you get a slightly different sound from everybody's booth, and that sometimes an issue. So I think there'll be more remote recording in the future. That'll probably
Dang.
stick with us.
Okay. To go back to Shockwave, what do you believe makes Shockwave so terrifying?
Well, I think I was saying earlier that his lack of emotion. Usually a villain, if you ever try to be evil, it doesn't sound evil anymore. Like you got to think about, okay, is he sad and lonely and isolated? Is that what makes him a villain? Is he angry? Is he striking out? Is that what, his sort of core? Is he the quiet menace type? The intelligent? The delicious, I call them. Sometimes they call it chewing scenery. I'm going to get you now. That kind of huge villain. But Shockwave, you are logical. The space in there, the suspense. You don't know if he's going to say that you're logical. And if he doesn't say you're logical, you're done. So the most interesting part of that character is when he isn't speaking.
Yeah, when he's just there menacing.
You don't know what he's going to do next. You don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, because when I remember when I first saw Shockwave, he was terrifying. The way they angled the shot of when he first enters, you could tell like he is a menacing presence who is not to be messed with.
His very first appearance was like that. It was from below. The camera was below, and it's made him look really scary. There's something that I talk about when I'm teaching that kind of applies to Shockwave. It's a visual thing. Like, this is way less interesting than that. Because when you're doing that, who knows what will happen. When you're doing this, it's just chaos. That's not that interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely agree with that. What scene or scenes do you believe truly shows Shockwave's character?
Well, the very first scene that he's in season 2, you see the absolute cruelty, the lack of empathy in that first character, in that first scene. And then also, really the one that you mentioned with Starscream, it's just his, absolute intolerance for anything that's upsetting. He just wants things calm, but he wants things his way. Yeah, it was a really great character, really one of the greatest characters I've ever gotten to play. And not because of my performance, but because the character was amazing.
Now let's speak about another awesome villain that you played. Now this was my first time recognizing your voice was in the 2018 Bumblebee movie as Blitzwing. Now I want to ask, when you originally saw Blitzwing, did you think we were playing Starscream? Because everyone in the fan community was like, "Oh my God, this is Starscream! This is Starscream!" And then when they came out as Blitzwing, people were like all over the place. There were mixed reactions to it, but
I know the fans were the fans were expecting Starscream before you even saw him, long before the movie was released. So they had that expectation in their minds, I think, when they started to see it. I did not. I try to clear the slate. Whenever I do something new, it's like, even if it's a character that's known from before, I don't think about the old performance. I just think about what was new. I never thought of him as Starscream.
Right. Okay.
Cool. It was just a new thing.
Yeah, that's what fans need to. Some fans need to adopt that mentality. I know not all of them have it, but things don't go as expected, and you just have to accept it. Yeah.
If they did, wouldn't that be kind of boring? Isn't it more interesting if things are unexpected?
Absolutely. That goes back to what you were saying with the Shockwave, where it's just like this, not like all over the place, Yeah.
And it's like, it was spoilers. People want the spoilers. Why? Why ruin it for everybody? I really try to never give out any spoilers. It's just, it's no fun then.
Right, 100% agree. That's why I get so mad when people spoil a show or something, or when my friends are talking to me and they've already seen it and they know I have not seen it, but still proceed to talk to me about it like I have. And I remember, oh gosh, I think someone spoiled Cowboy Bebop for me, and I literally was gonna break my computer screen. Why would you do? I haven't seen it. I haven't even started it. It's just I don't know if I want to go back to it. But,
it's hard to not spoil things that happened years ago because there's so much online about them.
Right. Exactly. So I forgave him. I didn't break my computer. But when you talked about recording for the Blitzwing, you talked about there were some difficulties because of how long you've been in this industry. What were some difficulties while recording for the audience that you could tell them?
Not sure what you mean, but there wasn't really a lot of difficulty. It was just challenging. Challenging more than difficult.
Challenging, that's what I meant. Let me fix my phrasing. Challenging parts of recording Blitzwing was what I
Well,
meant.
Blitzwing was recorded at Paramount Studios on the Paramount lot with an enormous screen in front of me, with the director of the movie. I'm pretty good with pressure now, but in that case, you're imagining also that it's an IMAX movie. You have to imagine where this thing's being shown. Is it on a phone? Is it at home? Is it in the theater? Is it a game? There's just so many different considerations. The biggest performances I ever give are in the movies, because you know how enormous that image is on the screen. They're going to do a lot for me technically, and I can only do so much as a human being. But definitely that first line, "Did you think you could hide?" It was so intense that we spent one whole session pretty much only doing that one line. Because Travis Knight wanted to hear as many possibilities as I could give him, just to consider what to do. And the intensity I tried to deliver was definitely something that was making me see stars a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, I could only imagine. That line is so memorable to me. Like, if I'm to remember any line from Bumblebee, "There's your line." That's awful, but
It's the kind of line. If you did that outside of a studio, they would call the police, because it would be so intense and it would sound like you were going to kill somebody.
Yeah. I could only imagine. That character didn't last long, but I remember in that other interview, the Omega podcast interview, you said, in these franchises, you go back in time, they could bring him back, build him back together, so you never know what's happening for the future, or he could just come back as a completely different character in a whole new sequel. So,
well, I'd love to see Blitzwing again if they can put him back together.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. I love Blitzwing. I love his design. That's one of my, if I'm being honest, that's one of my favorite designs of a Decepticon so far. I don't know. It's just something, maybe it's the colors for me. I don't know. It's just something about how menacing and tall he is that's just so cool.
Well, here's a fan question. I don't know this. You could tell me. He came in from another world with pieces of a U.S. fighter plane. How did that happen? Did he take over some technology when he arrived? I mean, did he add things? What's the background of that? I don't know.
I personally, I don't think they've given an official thing, but the thing that I always had, like, headcanon is what people call it when there's not, like, anything officially confirmed, like something, like, for example, like Star Wars and Revenge of the Sith, Anakin is looking at this thing, and with Clone Wars happening, simultaneously there's an event happening, and they're thinking of it as, oh, Anakin was looking at how his friend was doing, and then he drops it because she's okay. So, but the headcanon for me is that he scanned it. Like, you know how, like, in G1, they have that little robot that, like, scans over it, or in the Transformers Bay movies, they scan over it. So that's what I think happened.
Okay.
Yeah. That would make the most sense to me. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not in charge of this franchise, so they could be like, he was on Cybertron like that, and I would never know. So
I love how he's in the poster. Did you notice he's in the poster? If you look back here, you can't really see it. He's a teeny little plane on the side, so I know that that's him.
Yeah.
He's coming in.
Yeah. Did you audition for any other Transformers movies before this, or was this your first
I did.
time?
I did. I've auditioned for almost all of them.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Didn't get it. Finally got it.
I'm glad you did, man. You really deserve it. Yeah, I'm so glad, and I'm really excited to see what you do next. Can you name some characters you auditioned for, like Megatron or?
In the past, I've auditioned for Megatron, but that's Frank Welker's baby, and we also often will call each other if they're trying to give a part that's really well known to someone else, just as a courtesy. We usually have a discussion. Not that we can do anything about it, but one time Steve Blum, somebody was doing a game that had Shockwave in it, and they didn't hire me, and they wanted him to do it, and he spoke up, and they didn't care, but he did it, but he called me and told me, and that was very, very, very courteous of him.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Wow, that's really cool.
You didn't have to do that. What a sweetie. What a great guy.
Steve Blum sounds awesome just to be around. He's been in so much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So out of the 4 Transformers characters, Brawl, Depth Charge, Shockwave, Blitzwing, which character did you have the most fun with?
Well, I have to always answer that question by saying I love all my children equally. because I don't want to give anyone too much love. But I love doing movies. That's just a great thing. Obviously, they're all great characters. I can't really say one was better than the other one, but I love doing movies. I just did a movie. I guess it's on the IMDb now. What is it called? Is it a weird name? Let me look it up while we're talking. It's a movie that I did, but it had such a weird name I couldn't remember the name. But that's going to come out in a couple months, and I'm looking forward to that. It's a whole scene where there's a fellow who's a live action stunt performer, and I'm doing his voice. It's vocalized, but they shot it so that you couldn't see his lips moving. Or these are lines that happen when he's like back's turned and stuff. So they added this whole story to it that wasn't there before.
Oh wow, okay.
I seem to be the one that gets cast in movies with weird names, so I'll look it up while we're talking.
Okay, awesome.
Well, do you have my IMDb up right now?
No, sadly.
The very newest thing. That's okay. We'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I'm sorry about that. I usually do.
No, don't worry about it. I should have it up too.
But
because I don't remember everything I've done.
Yeah, you've been in so much. Like, I was trying to figure out what to talk to you about, and I just want to give respect to everything you've been in. So sometimes it's very difficult when I speak to voice actors what to pick specifically.
Well, what most people do is they talk about what they love. That's always the thing that's best to talk about, what you really like. Let's see. Video games are first. You keep asking me stuff, I'll just look for it.
Okay, yeah. So now let's switch into the Marvel universe, and I want to talk about, you were in Daredevil, and that's my favorite TV show of all time. Like, nothing, in my opinion, can beat that show. I love it so much. And you were in the episode as Stone, which was this guy, just faced, you just saw scars on his back, and he was talking.
You just saw his back. And I wasn't really credited in that. That was my voice. The actor that was sitting there was credited with the role. That was super stealth. They didn't tell me who my character was. They didn't tell me what the scene was. This is just a Marvel, just keeping it under wraps. They didn't explain much about it, so it was almost like doing a scene a little bit blind. It was unusual. Because even the director, I would ask him questions and he wouldn't answer me because he didn't want the public. I mean, they didn't know me, so they didn't know to trust me, but I wasn't going to say anything to anybody, but it was a pretty secret thing for them. I was hoping the character would come back, but I don't think he ever did.
He didn't, sadly. And that was one thing that I've always wondered, because I don't remember them tying that up, like explaining his backstory more. So I really would have loved for him to have come back and do a deep dive into his history. But, that's how it works.
Jumping back for just a second, the movie is called This Game's Called Murder. You can understand why I didn't remember the title. This Game Called Murder.
This Game's Called Murder. I'll look out for that. Okay. Awesome. I can't wait to see that and see what that's all about. I love looking at new movies and new TV shows and anime and stuff like that. So I'm definitely glad you put that on my radar. But speaking of radars, how was the role of Stone in Daredevil put on your radar?
Just auditioned for it like anybody else. Just the audition went out and I tried out for it and they brought me in.
Did you continue watching the Daredevil series?
Oh yeah, I loved it. Especially I love origin stories. That's my favorite thing. So the first season was my favorite season.
Really? My favorite season goes season 3, 1 and 2. I think I just love season 3 because it's based off of one of my favorite comic books of all time, Daredevil, Born Again. Really good. But season 1 is amazing as well. I really hope that the rumor that he's in Spider-Man 3 comes true, because
that would be cool.
That'd be very cool. Now let's get to another character that's more well-known, Drax. Now, the thing about Drax that I found interesting was you did a panel, and you spoke on how you were cast as Drax before Dave Bautista. So how did they create the character of Drax? Because the Drax you portray is very reminiscent of the movie.
Well, it just happened to be that way. It was they called it a feel alike. So it wasn't sound alike, it wasn't look alike. They knew what property they had, and they were showing us what it was. When we recorded our first episode, the first movie hadn't been released yet, and they didn't give us any advanced screening of it. So we weren't copying anything. We were just going by their guidance. And at the first few episodes, there were a lot of people from Marvel in the booth. There were like 15 people there, so there was tons of people to help us know what to do. And what an audition process. They put special cameras where we were auditioning so they could see if anybody like took anything home or something, because they were just, and they apparently had microphones too. They were really being careful that we kept the confidentiality, and everybody had an envelope. Usually, like they would leave what you were auditioning out. They just say they put the name. There might be a table with all the people auditioning, and they put David, and you would see what are called sides. But in this case, it was in a sealed envelope. Here you go. Okay. So you go off in the corner and look at that. They did that with Depth Charge 2 years ago. When they showed me the character, he brought me to the corner of the room so nobody could see. He showed me for about 10 seconds and then put it back in the envelope.
Wow. That's really cool. Well, a lot of these like big franchises like Star Wars or Marvel and DC, there's a lot of like security and
they aren't playing around. A fellow Court Lane was one of the development directors at Marvel at the time, and he explained it by saying Marvel is in the excitement business. They know how to generate excitement, and they do. They're good at that. But my job is to play Drax. My job is to not generate the excitement for Marvel, to do any publicity for them. My job is to come in and play the role. I'm invited into their house, and say somebody wants you to take your shoes off, or they want you to wipe your feet, you follow some rules. So that's what you do. And confidentiality is a huge deal. When I did Asmodan in Diablo 3, in my contract was a clause saying that they could fine me, they could charge me $3 million if I revealed the character.
What? Oh my gosh.
That's a bit of a deterrent, wouldn't you say?
Yes, what? $3 million.
I have $3 million. I do not have $3 million.
Right. I was talking to Tom Kane, I want to say a couple months ago in October before what happened. Really nice guy. He was talking about how when he recorded stuff for like Star Wars, they would like take his phone and like lock it up and do like all this extra security stuff to make sure that stuff didn't get leaked or anything. Because I remember a little story about I think it was John Boyega. Someone on the Rise of Skywalker set, their script got leaked because the script was under a mattress in a hotel room or something, and someone was selling it on eBay. I don't know if it was, yeah.
In certain movies, they are so worried about confidentiality, they will shoot fake scenes to throw the public off.
Yeah, like when, because the people are all over it. Like set photos come out like all the time. Like just today, they just leaked set photos for the new Spider-Man movie. So you don't know what's gonna happen. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on.
It's pretty hard to lock down a set. If you're outside and you've locked down a certain area, I mean, it's not like the Pentagon is, or I should say, not like the Capitol building is right now with the wall all around it. After the riot. So there's people that can get in with cameras. And from a couple blocks away, even, and just have a like telephoto lens and see what's going on. Right. So it's pretty hard to hide when you're shooting outside.
Have you met Dave Bautista before?
They've tried. They have tried to get us together. I was probably 50 feet away from him at Comic-Con in San Diego, and they came and said, "We'd like you to meet Dave," but they weren't willing to have me go into the area where all the stars were. They were going to bring them to me at my booth. I was assigning. They couldn't figure out a way to deal with security. I don't know if you've ever seen a really big star at Comic-Con. They surround them like Secret Service. They have like 15 people around them. So it takes a little bit of planning because they get mobbed, especially at San Diego Comic-Con. I saw Will Smith, and he literally had like rows of people around him that moved with him. And they'd open up when he wanted to go somewhere and bring him back in, and so nobody could get close to him. It's funny.
That reminds me of the episode. I don't know if you watched this. It was an old Disney show. It was like a Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. It was like in the 2000s, and there was this character who had like Secret Service, and whenever he moved like to the left and to the right, they'd move with him.
That's exactly what it was like with Will Smith.
That's awesome. Another character you played, of course, as you can see the Flash thing in the background right there with the toy, you played Gorilla Grodd. Now, I haven't gotten the chance to watch all of Flash. There's so much to watch I'm going to get into, but I watched a lot of clips to get the feel of the character because I want to know what the character is like. And I don't want to come in here, wet behind the ears. I want to know what I'm getting into with this character, so to say. And you just did such an amazing job. Just want to tell you that you did great. I just love your voice as the character.
Thank you.
And what pieces of Grodd do you see in yourself?
Huh. Well, definitely the ability to, it's sort of like a COVID thing, to hibernate, because Grodd can be really close to the chest, internal, in his own thoughts kind of thing. And I definitely can do that at times. I wouldn't say this is a huge part of me, but I based that character on the fact that he didn't know who he was, that he started out from unknown origin. It wasn't the same as the comic books. They had their own canon in the Flash TV show. So there was a lot of sadness. And there's a little tinge of sadness as he goes along, especially when people disappoint him, when people betray him, that makes him a little more human. And I've been working really closely with the team there to make sure that over the 7 years we've done him, the arc has a flow to it. So the character is progressing and it's conscious. We're changing him every year, making him smarter. But I think he'll always have that, distrust because he was betrayed a couple times. When you go over to Legends of Tomorrow, he did a couple episodes there. He was definitely betrayed there, and he vocalized it. And so I think a lot of his anger comes from that. Fans have watched The Flash. The latest episode, it's called Grodd Friended Me. So I don't even have to tell you what the episode is about. You get the idea. So they're wondering where he's going to go next.
Awesome. I can't wait to see what happens next with that character. Another character that I love, I'm a huge Dr. Fate fan. I literally looked on the internet for hours just to find the helmet, just to be disappointed to see it cost $500. Like, I'm not paying $500 for a helmet, but I love Dr. Fate, and you got to play him in Injustice too. So what was that like, getting into that character?
I would consider him kind of like someone who is obsessed with religion, obsessed with order. He's obsessed with order. So it's almost the religion of order. And he doesn't accept anybody that doesn't accept the way he sees the world. And that makes for a very interesting character too. I've played a couple of characters like that in the past, and they don't listen to anyone else. No one can get to them. This is how it is. They may be kind at first to try to explain it to you, and they become very villainous if you don't follow what they believe in. So that's psychologically very interesting.
Yes, yes, indeed. I just remember playing him, and his lines are so cold, kind of reminiscent of Shockwave, but different. Like, they're just so cold, like straight to the point. Like, I can't remember any lines. I should have wrote a line.
Well, it's usually about order. It's like I don't remember the lines very well either. But if somebody was in the way of his, maintaining order or of order, he would want to destroy them.
Yeah, can't. I remember. Yes, I remember. It was in the story. What was his name? His name was the guy who puts his helmet on. Kent, I think is his name, Dr. Kent. And he was going to save somebody, and the Dr. Fate helmet was so powerful. He was like, "Nope, don't do that." And he like pulled him back and like made him like just walk straight and let the person die. I was like, "What? This is insane." To get to his main
it was
goal.
Always a push and pull between the two of them. Kent didn't want to put his helmet on, really. I don't think. And when he put it on, he was a different person. And sometimes he regretted what he did when he took it off. He had regretted what he did as Dr. Fate.
Yeah. That makes for a very interesting. I really hope that they bring Dr. Fate into the movies. That'd be really cool to see, just that dynamic between Kent and the helmet. That
would be great. I hope they do someday. There was a scene in Injustice 2. That's Fate was in 2, right? Not one was Lobo. And
one was Lobo. 2 is it? Yep.
Yeah, Fate. And they cut it. I won't really reveal it, but it was a huge reveal for Kent's absolute despair and regret for what he had done. Great scene, but they cut it.
Dang it. Ugh! Now you're going to make me want to go find it or something. I don't know. Oh, dang. Okay.
It's interesting being in the middle of these projects when they make a decision, a creative decision, and you realize that it could have gone one way, but it went another way. There was this video game I did. I'm forgetting the name, but I did a performance capture role, and they wanted to kill a couple of the main characters in a franchise, and the fans found out about it while we were shooting it, and they had to reshoot it. They didn't want to kill off those characters.
Right. Okay. Yeah, like speaking of creative changes, I remember you also talked about how when you originally shot for Bumblebee, there was no Cybertron scene. Like the beginning
No,
with the
yeah, it
G.
was the very first scene was originally supposed to be the credits end, smash cut to Blitzwing flying through the forest. They didn't even have the army scene, I don't think. And they added all that later.
Oh wow. Okay.
So at
Yeah, that's
first, I
cool.
mean, I still love the role, but I remember the excitement of thinking it's kind of a huge responsibility. The very first line in the movie was going to be my line. But
Yeah,
that's okay. It worked out fine. I have no
yeah,
complaints.
yeah. You did. They gave Blitzwing the perfect amount of screen time, the perfect stuff to do, and I truly enjoy that character. I'm trying to get the Have you seen the studio series of Blitzwing?
Yeah, oh yeah, I've got one.
You do? Nice.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love the studio series. I'm trying to get the Blitzwing figure. But for one thing I wanted to talk to you about was when I was looking through the voice roles you did. You don't do a lot of anime dubs. You've only done two, if I'm correct. You haven't done a
Just
lot of dubs.
way back in the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. For in the future, is that something you're looking into dubbing?
Yeah, I'd consider it. It isn't something that I've really pursued, but sure. It'd be fun.
I can see it as like a character on like Naruto or Dragon Ball Z or something like that. That'd be cool to see you
That'd
in
be great.
a cool little role like that. So now we're gonna get into my favorite part of the interviews and some my people's favorite part of the interviews that I have on. It's called Weird and Wacky, and it's a 1 minute segment where you have to answer a series of rapid fire, random, and wacky questions.
Okay.
No one has gotten to 15 questions. The person that has come the closest is voice actress Tara Platt with a record of 12 questions answered. Do you think you can beat Tara Platt?
We'll see what you ask.
All right. Where is it?
Let me take a drink of water. Get ready for this.
Okay. You do that. I'm about to start the timer in 3, 2, 1. Longest time period without taking a shower.
3 days.
Nastiest food you've ever eaten.
Boiled Brussels sprouts.
Superpower you wish you had in real life.
Flying.
Would you rather drink sweat or eat toenails?
Neither.
Movie you wish you were in.
Batman.
Character you wish you had a chance at.
Batman.
Would you rather teleport or learn to fly?
Learn to fly.
Place you wish you were at.
Hawaii.
Coolest vacation you've ever been on.
Hawaii.
A character that you are most well known for.
Grodd.
A food that you refuse to eat.
It's a certain type of sushi. I can't remember the name of it. It's a belly. Uni, I think it's called.
And your favorite brand of shoes.
I don't have a favorite brand.
Wow. So you and Tara are tied. You both have answered 12 questions.
Okay.
Now we're finally at the end of the interview. This is my last question. And before I get off and say my final words to you, I just want to say thank you so much. This has been such an honor and a privilege to be talking to you right now. I'm just so glad that you said yes to me. You have such an amazing and wonderful catalog that it's just been, this is a dream come true for me, honestly. And just thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
I hope you've had a good time here yourself.
Absolutely. You're a nice guy.
Thank you. So my final question to you is, what would your current message to the world be during these current times that we live in? Obviously, there's a lot going on, the Capitol, the presidency, the pandemic. A lot of people are in fear and are scared. What would you say to people right now who are in need of hope and just a little extra boost?
Boy, I just think human beings have a great capacity to love, and find the people that love you, keep them around you. Don't have anyone around you that pulls you down. You need encouragement, and stay safe. The pandemic is a real thing. Put a mask on when you're walking around. It's not political. You know, I know a lot of people that have gotten sick from this. I'm sure a lot of you have too. And all the arguments in the world that we have aren't worth it. Well, because say it's completely fake. What does it hurt to put a mask on? It doesn't hurt anybody. Doesn't hurt you. No one's taking your rights away. Just be good to each other and be kind. You know, we are all in our own ways having a hard time with this. No matter how well you're doing, something in your life is definitely not the same as it was before. Remember that everyone's going through a struggle, and just try to be a little empathetic and a little bit more patient than you would have been normally. I think that would help.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it any better. David, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for watching for another installment of Jam More Interviews. Is there anything you would like to plug before you get off?
No, just watch more Flash. Enjoy Flash. Enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy on Disney Plus. You know, a lot of people didn't really see our show. It's a really great show. I'd really recommend that. And that's really it for now.
Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you on another interview. Y'all stay safe and have a great day. Peace.